Now, we sought the views of Kenyans on the streets of Nairobi on the unemployment situation in the country. Here is Nimrod Tabu with a sample of those views.
Every day, hundreds of thousands of Kenyans are looking for jobs. But a number of them have given reasons as to why they're still unemployed to date. Some have said it's something to do with age. Others are talking about qualifications. And yet others are talking about nepotism.
I come from a family of 9, and none of us is employed by the Kenya government.
So you were hoping to get employment in the Kenya government?
Kenya government, unless you meet the high in command, people in the ministry or people in senior jobs like parastatos. The people middle class, the people you call secretaries, they are the worst. The askaris are the gates. They want something small to make you through. Unless you do that, they tell you, have an appointment. But having an appointment is having something in your pocket.
When we did our O-levels, there was those courses that we did. They do not match with the courses that the current generation is doing. So you find it is very hard for you to find a job.
The levels of employment in the place I am are very low. In fact, they are almost equal to the levels of dismissal.
Niambie, umekosa ajira kwa muda gani toka ulipomaliza shule? Mwanzo ulimaliza shule mwaka gani na imekuwaje uko hapa unatafuta ajira katika katikati mwa jiji la Nairobi?
Imekuwa kitambo na nilikuwa na kibarua kidogo ilipotea, na imekuwa muda karibu miaka 10. Sasa ni kukaa tu hivi tangu wakati huo mpaka wa sasa.
Je, ulisoma, na kama ulisoma ulifika kiwango gani katika elimu?
Nilifika form 4.
The period of time you can work for them is shorter if you are older than a young person. So they prefer young people, presentable people. They also like presentable people.
Kule mali nikienda wananiambia aita nawaachia zile document zangu. Kutoka hapo naambiwa subiri atakupigia, atakuita. But so far hamna matarajio yote mazuri ambayo yamepatikana.
Like PLO Lumumba was saying, we have trained engineers, PhD, but we look for Chinese. Why? Because ours, the culture, ile mbegu tumelea watoto wetu ni kwamba unless you steal, you cannot be rich. Unless you steal, you cannot be successful. You see that? That's the culture of the modern day Kenyan. So whoever gets a big job looks at you when you come to his office as, can you give him something?
And new research has placed the number of people in Kenya who are unemployed at 40%, and the competition gap between the young and old is growing day by day. Nimrod Tabu, NTV, Nairobi.
The story by Nimrod Tabu also acts as a segue to introduce our panelists who are here this morning to tell us about the situation, of course, of the current unemployment settlement in the country. A staggering number we've seen there, and of course, a very heart-wrenching story of Kariuki there as well. Allow me to introduce to you this morning Senator Boni Khalwale, Dr. Boni Khalwale, who is a senator from Kakamega. We have also with us Member of Parliament from Kiambu, Honorable Jakoyo Midiwo, and also Senator Kimani Wamatangi. And we're eagerly waiting for Mithika Linturi. Today, Haman Manyora is away for an assignment. Right, so we continue. Good morning.
Morning.
Right, let's just get down into it, and of course, looking at this story that we just had, the stories that our reporters have done this morning. Can we briefly just weigh in on this particular story, the unemployment situation in the country? What will be your reaction?
Yeah, that's what it is. Jubilee is unable to employ our youth. And as we have seen by the case of Kariuki, it is time somebody did something. It's extremely sad. Although I am not too sure about that clip of Kariuki.
You're not too sure? I'm
not too sure, because what was that lawyer doing there? There was a lawyer who had just come from the High Court, the guy in the white shirt. Secondly, when you look at Kariuki, he's projecting himself as a street boy. He's very dirty. he's feeding from the dustbins, but his certificates, his documents are immaculate clean. So I think somebody was pulling an act on television, which is okay. The message has been sent.
So you don't think it is genuine, a very kosher story that has been told?
No. Well, if Kariuki is living the way he's living, where is he keeping those certificates? Or maybe he has deposited with that lawyer who was with him.
All right, let's hear from Jakoyo Midiwo.
I don't agree with Boni.
It's true, it is there.
Whatever the story of Kariuki is it's the story all over Kenya. What was missing from the story is that this country, the last 8 months of last year, we lost 135,000 jobs from the formal sector. And those jobs, half of them are from the financial sector. Because of corruption, and inability for us to focus the financial markets and the financial sector. Now, you know when you go across this country, where do the youth get jobs? If you come to my office, I'm sure even in Boni's office, there are really literally hundreds and hundreds of CVs.
CVs, yeah.
And sympathize with Kariuki, and you know, we used to say Wanjiku, and Wanjiku meant all Kenyans. And so Kariuki may be the personification of all the jobless youth we have in our country. I don't think this government has the ability to do anything. You know, even the SGR where they have stolen, the engineers are Chinese. There is no African educated working on the SGR. Everybody is imported, doing manual job, and even doing jobs that our engineers can really do. There is no job policy. So that when the president is shown trying to sweet talk his way through public policy, it must be seen that it is somebody trying to con his way into presidency. I don't think the president of the day and his deputy have the ability and capacity to do this country right. It's unfortunate, but it is the truth.
All right, Senator Wamatangi, good morning.
Debarl, let me first share the sentiments and send my heart out to Kariuki. Kariuki says he's actually from Kiambu, and I can associate, I can imagine, I can relive his plight. I fully concur with him, and I would want to say to my friend Boni, actually some of these young men, because their certificates are so precious, Boni, once he has gone to school with all the hope that those certificates are going to earn him a good life, some of them put those certificates in polythene papers and wrap them and keep them. Not even a drop of water can get to them, because they are the most precious treasure that they have, and that is why they lay all their hope. But you see, what I would want to say to Kenyans in form of straight talk is that really, why should we be surprised that we're in this situation or this scenario? You see, since the time when we accepted and acknowledged the death of Rivertex, the death of Kikomi, the death of Mumia Sugar, the death of Pan Paper, the death of more than 60% of all the industries in Thika and in Ruiru. The time when we accepted that we have formed an EPZ zone that processes more than 80% of all the goods imported, they process and repackage, not manufacture. The time when this country accepted that all the assembly lines in this country for motor vehicles are dead, such that we import completely built units, even of the most simple like tractors and trucks, then why would we be surprised that we accepted to become an economy that relies entirely on importing everything. And we've had this debate here before, including matchsticks, including toothpicks. I mean, you find a container load of tissue paper in the port being cleared, eggs from South Africa. So why should we be surprised that our youth are languishing on the streets looking for jobs? And the answer to this is very simple: a complete change and about turn in the economic policy and leadership of this country. Period. You see, and I'll tell you this, and I'll tell you this. You know, this is no joke. This is about the lives of the young people of this country, and that is why. Ask yourself, as my colleagues get amused, but ask yourself, which years did Kikomi die? Which years did we close down river tax? You know, and that's why I would also want to urge also my colleagues on the same breath to support and acknowledge, for example, like when the Jubilee government, since inception in 2014, we brought up the jobs count from 13 million to 14 million. And in 2015, from 14 million to 15 plus million. When you've seen the president going out of his way to go to Mumias and act positively to revive Mumias sugar, act positively to revive pan paper, and then you find that the same politics that have driven those young people to the street is the same politics that our politicians want to follow. Right. Ask yourself, in those years, you have seen what has happened, including, for example, in the positive move by Jubilee to ensure that we even transform the National Youth Service to start rejuvenating our young people.
All right, let's
so the point is this. My point is this, as I summarize, that we cannot continue to hide our heads in the sand, that we cannot continue to play this politics that we play. We must face the reality and tell our people, tell our country, tell all leadership, including my friends here in the opposition, that the only way to rescue this country from this kind of bondage is to ensure that we front in everybody, that we will turn this country into a self-reliant manufacturing economy that is self-reliant, where we create our own jobs and create and manufacture our own goods. It's the only way to move.
But in whose remit is it actually to create that enabling environment, to have a conducive, environment for the manufacturing sector? Is it the government?
Debarl, that's why I've said, if you've been following closely, you saw the president the other day, he was in Mithika, reviving the assembly plant for CMC. You saw him in pan paper, like I've said. You saw him in Mumias. You have seen him, including in Kisumu. So the point is this, that is what we should support, unless we agree and remove politics from this. Because, politics changes every 5-year cycle. After this, we have Jubilee. We'll have Jubilee. We'll have another government. Maybe after 20 years, we'll have another government. So, but the reality persists.
Okay. Let's say from your reactions, Boni Khalwale, you wanted to react on that.
I think for the first time, Senator Wamatangi has done extremely well. In fact, if it was in biblical times, we have seen our Wamatangi, who was Saul, and he has become Paul. I really must congratulate you. But speaking medically, you've made the proper diagnosis. But when you come to the issue of prognosis, you get it completely wrong. It is true that the political leadership of this country killed all the industries that you have enumerated. But you are shy to say that the person who killed them was Moi regime, and Moism. That was the problem. As evidenced by what happened when Kibaki came into power and subsequently formed a grand coalition government with Raila, this thing can be fixed, because Kibaki got the economy growing at minus 1.8%. And by the time we were going for re-election, we were at 7%. So it is doable. Now, where did we get it wrong? After we had started that trajectory of recovery, it is when we made the everlasting mistake of thinking that the political orphans of Moi could fix that which Kibaki and Raila had put on track. So what these political orphans of Moi, i.e. Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto, have done is simply to take us back. There is a clip which is doing wonders, trending on social media, where they are now telling, the youth are telling President Uhuru that, please, we are not asking you to do anything for Kenya. Please just take us back to where you found us. When the dollar was exchanging at 70%.
70 shillings.
Yes, when bread was costing that much, when a packet of unga was costing, that's all they are now asking them. So we made that mistake. Now, to go specifically, you have mentioned the issue of pan paper and Mumias Sugar Company. Thank God you don't come from there. It's not a laughing matter. President Uhuru never came to Ebuye to revive pan paper. They came to Ebuye to take over pan paper for a song. Pan paper is worth 18 billion shillings. President Uhuru and Rai, we understand they are partners. He needs to clarify. They bought that for a song at 900 million shillings. At 600, yeah, you got it. 600 million shillings. So, because Uhuru will be expecting for votes from my community, he needs to make it crystal clear that he's not a partner with Rai. Otherwise, we shall be looking at him and shouting, thief, 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 when he comes to ask for votes, because he has stolen pan paper. And for information, pan paper is gone. After Uhuru bought it with Rai, it is now called Rai paper. They have taken over our asset. As far as Mumias Sugar Company is concerned, I know you're itching. The truth is very bitter. I'm telling you.
I'm not itching. I'm only ready to answer you
and
answer you correctly.
When they came over,
because my colleague.
I'm correcting. I'm finishing. In conclusion, when they came over on the issue of pan paper, it is true they brought 1 billion shillings. It is true, but two problems with that. The first one is that the mirror image of the same is that when he went to Central, he wrote off the debts that were the reasons why the coffee farmers were not performing. But when he came in our place, he brought that 1 billion, and that 1 billion, unknown to Kenyans, was actually a loan, 500 million. And the balance of 500 million was from Kenya Sugar Development Levy. The Sugar Development Levy, Wamatangi, you might not know, is money contributed by the farmers themselves. So the president came with a check with the farmers' money and told them that I'm bringing you a gift. He should pardon us. He should give us a break.
Are you done?
Thank you.
I'm ready to answer you.
Please respond.
because Boni, I want to say this to you.
Yes, sir.
Because we are good friends and we are in the same house.
Yes.
And I believe that we have a responsibility together to ensure that we offer proper leadership. Because today we are here, tomorrow we will not be here. and the fate that befell those industries that we're talking about, that employed young people in Kakamega and in Mumias, those that employed young people in Kisumu and in Kiambu, died as a result of bad politics and bad policies from leaders like you and others, who, instead of looking at the issues as they are and, not pretending that we are economists, that we know what is good for growing industry, mix it and cocktail it with politics so that it suits the battles we want to win today of the hearts and votes of people. And you see, unless we make that decision and that detour, Boni, that the people of Mumias and Kakamega should continue and should get a fair shot at the revival of the opportunity that will employ their sons, not at the behest of the politics and where Khalwale will be tomorrow in politics. And I want to say this dispassionately, my brother. Me and you, after 10, 20, 30 years, we will be sitting in our houses, looking at our sons and those that are behind us, playing the role that you are playing. Yeah. And you have just said with your mouth now that we blame Moi for what befell those. Yes, you can say it again. But I'll tell you what, those that are paying the price is not Moi, it's other people. And today, you want to extend the same curse.
All right, let's hear from Jakoyo Midiwo.
So can we say the right things and at the right time?
I agree with you, Senator Wamatangi, you know, your first contribution was nice for the first time. At least you say that these crooks must go home. We need complete overhaul. Those are the words he used. The overhaul that we're going to have is that there must be a new government which has ideas about job policy.
I said overhaul of policy.
Yes,
Economic policy.
but you know now, who is the head of policy? Isn't it the presidency in our country? Actually,
that's the job we are doing.
Oath.
That's the job we are doing now.
When you say there is positive revival, I mean, what is positive about the theft in NYS and the youth fund? What is positive about investing 600 billion in a rail where in a country where everybody is dying of hunger? What is positive? You know, this revival you are saying, Boni has told you, Uhuru took over the presidency when the economy was growing at 7.3%.
Please.
And now we are at minus 1.8%. What is positive about that?
Where do you get your references?
And when you say about, when you talk about, just relax. When you talk about CMC, who owns CMC? Who owns CMC? What is happening with that plant in Mithika is that Uhuru has started car manufacturing in his backyard. It is his own. You know, here at CMC, do you know why that Gorofa Road was never built? It was because it was going to interfere with the first family's house.
In where fact, the CMC, they hunted Peter Muthoka out of the company.
So when you talk, you don't think we are ignorant. This is Nairobi, but nobody gets to where we are without facts. You know, that plant in Thika is the first family's plant, and we want to be corrected. Then we face them with facts. You know.
Are you ready
so when
to be
he's saying,
now?
when he's saying, no, I know you know nothing about it, and if you knew, I'm sure you'd be saying the opposite because it's embarrassing. That people are using their political positions.
I'll help you with facts.
To loot from Kenyans, and it is not fair when somebody who takes the Bible, an oath, to do right is doing wrong. You can't. This, I agree with you that something must change. We must change the trend. We cannot go south always. We must stop the downward trend that these two young men are taking us to.
You know, just a very quick one, Debarl. Just to help my colleague.
Answer. Who owns CMC?
Just a minute. Just to help my colleague here, Jakoyo, because you know, once you step into the limelight here, and especially when you are a popular leader and a participant in a forum like this, you become a national leader.
That's true.
And there are people who watch you here in Nairobi, they watch you in Thika and other places. And so it is important we can have the politics of our parties, but some facts must hold true. It's a long way before you became a politician. Probably you are a young boy in primary school. There was a farm in Thika called Kenya Vehicle Manufacturers. Kenya Vehicle Manufacturers is the plant that was established in Kenya only to assemble all vehicles. So all the vehicles that you saw, maybe your dad used to have, your father used to have a vehicle.
There was
my father
had a bicycle.
My
father had a bicycle.
Listen, Boni. Yeah. You know, on that one, you can't argue with me. I'm an authority in that area.
How?
I will tell you how.
You're just a businessman.
Just listen, my friend.
On motor vehicle manufacturing.
Listen, my friend. Long way before I came to this forum, I have been in the motor vehicle trade for more than 16 years. So I can even take you to the plant in Mombasa, where they used to assemble Peugeots.
Yeah, that's all I want you to correct.
But I will tell you that the first firm that used to assemble vehicles in Kenya is in Thika, Kenya Vehicle Manufacturers. That's why everybody would take their vehicles earlier, from DT, Dobi to everybody, and they would bring their vehicles in what you call completely knocked down kits. And they would be assembled in Thika and brought to the showroom.
All right, we need to move on
now. Now, so when my friend here tries to create a wrong impression that, this is a new plant that is established,
nobody has used the word new.
The point here is that that what happened in Thika and what we hope will continue to happen in other places is the revival of what used to happen that time. There is the reason why we are all crying now.
Who owns
that we
CMC?
need better growth is because we did the
just a moment,
things, my friends.
Just to put it actually in perspective, because I think also we're really going off the rails and drilling deeper to where we're not really supposed to be. First of all, looking at the targets and of course looking at the manifesto of Jubilee, do you think Jubilee, they've actually made good of the promise to actually put out jobs there for Kenyans according to their targets? Or is it a wide berth from what they promised?
Debarl, in the Jubilee manifesto, we had promised that we will be creating 1 million jobs every year. If you look at the record, in 2015, we created 843,000 jobs, just 150,000 short of the target. Now, by the time we wind up with this, we will be hitting that target after the elections, and you have seen that what the polls are saying, that we are headed to a re-election. After that re-election, that is not only going to be a milestone achieved,
we'll look at the polls later.
It will be one definitely.
But if we swing the pendulum on the other side, how many people have lost their jobs during this particular 5 years as well? How many industries have closed in this country? We can name them actually, right? How many people have lost their jobs as well? So you can say you've created, but how many as well have lost their jobs?
You know, Debarl, let's wear an economic mind first as we discuss this, because you know, and that's why I was very careful first to say let's remove politics from it. The culture that we created in this country more than 20 years ago, the economic culture we adopted is the wrong one for a country that wants to grow. We willingly agreed to become an economy that survives and lives entirely on everything that is imported more than 20 years ago. And that is why you had me counting all those factories and companies that closed all those years ago. And that trend has continued. Now, how do we rescue this? Because the answer is not in counting who closed or who opened last year. The answer is this, that there has to be a complete shift of the mentality entirely in the country of how do you build an economy? How do you create jobs? We have to know, as that motto says, buy Kenya, build Kenya. But that is going to be what is going to rescue us.
We need to take a short break. All right, briefly, before we take a short. Yeah.
I think let's forget about the history of Moi days and whatnot. We talk about the last 5 years. President Uhuru has presided over the loss of jobs in the sugar production industry by a stroke of one signature where he allowed fictitious sugar to be imported from Uganda when we all know that it was coming from Venezuela and Brazil and then being repackaged. He killed those jobs. The jobs in the banking industry, Wamatangi, have gone. Jobs are being lost in the banking industry. To the extent that Standard Chartered is now relocating from Nairobi to go and be headquartered in Egypt. 4, we have East African breweries that used to be there. It has split. Uganda has gone its way. Tanzania has gone its way. Kenya has gone its way. And what is worse, the Kenyan jobs are actually South African jobs in East African industries. Listen to me. Why don't you relax? Coca-Cola that was headquartered here in Nairobi has now gone out. I think they're going to Rwanda. You know, they're going to South Africa.
I just wanted to
you don't know if you have to protect Uhuru on jobs.
I just wanted to
do it intelligently. It is not true.
To tell our viewers, when did Mumia's sugar close?
All right, we need to take a short break right now.
When did Pan Paper close? In 2013?
When you started
I've told you.
So be factual. You know, about that.
Okay, we'll drill deeper into this on the other side of the break. Okay, before we took a short break, of course, we were discussing that issue of jobs, and I think we have addressed it right now, that we're saying the Jubilee has not fulfilled its mandate as far as job creation is concerned, but we had also the sentiment from Honorable Kimani Wamatangi saying that over the years we've perpetuated this notion of importation in this country that has even a teeny tiny, toothpick we have to import from China. So we are not really leaving that particular policy that we've always touted, buy Kenya, build Kenya. Yep. Maybe as we're winding up, I just want to hear from Mithika Linturi, who was conspicuously missing. And you're joining us right now to just give us a notion of what you think about the joblessness in Kenya and how the Jubilee administration actually lived up to its mandate to actually give Kenyans jobs.
Thank you, Debarl, and I must apologize to the audience or the viewers for getting a bit late. And I know these are political here, and strategic meetings take place at night, so you end up sleeping very late. And
strategic meetings?
Yes.
We will tell us about this strategic meetings.
Elections are on at the planning level, so and considering Meru is not a small county, so at times we may end up getting into meetings very late. But nevertheless, let me appreciate what was said when I was waiting to get in by my brother Wamatangi.
Yes.
And I say, actually, I think the government has really done quite well in trying to create employment. And you know, the only problem that I find ourselves in, and especially our young men and women who have just left school, is that the perception of a job in their view is that that job you must sit and put a tie and sit in an office. People do not appreciate this aspect of entrepreneurship, and where we can build, how we can create in jobs is encouraging entrepreneurship, where we encourage people to do business, to start business and employ one or two people. In fact, I would want to ask Khalwale, you know, Khalwale, one thing, as my brother, you know, you are a very senior doctor in this country and a renowned gynecologist, I'm told.
I'm not.
Right? So you are not. So the women, oh, sorry, I would have asked, I've given just a small example on how to create jobs. You may have people that are doing business, but how in that business, how you manage that business to create an opportunity for one graduate from a university every year is very important. Not that I am not saying that the government have some bit of responsibility, because I may point out that some of our business are also being cued by the inability of some governments. You know, we have, when I talk about the governments, I am also roping in the aspect of the county governments, because by virtue of our system, now they are recognized as distinct governments. And I'm saying the government is seriously participating in the killing of industries of entrepreneurs, because I have had situations whereby you find in this country, and anybody who is listening, and anybody who has any contrary opinion may want to pick up this if I'm not saying the truth. These governments that Khalwale are running to, are craving to run after the next general elections are the source of misery that we have in this country. Why? All the governors in this country have made it so casual that when you give somebody a job that would have created another job somewhere, right? You get a job, you are given an LOP or some work, you do that work, you are not paid, and because you are not paid, and probably in financing that job, you went to a bank and got money, you realize you lose that job and the ability to lose others because you are not paid. Up to now, very many people, very many Kenyans, youth and the young men and women in this country, the women and the disabled are the serious casualties of this kind of mismanagement. I won't say it's really mismanagement. I think Bunge and the central, the national government, and all the good intentions, because when you look at the Jakoyo, the law we created in 2013 on the Procurement and Disposal Act of 2015, we really said in any development budget that each government has kindly apportioned 30%. The intention of 30% was to create avenues for the young men and women and the less fortunate in society to have something to do for themselves. And in my view, those are jobs. This aspect and notion, we must demystify that one, not to the extent that people must know what a job means. By the very basic definition, is what you do to earn something to take care of your family on a daily basis.
Thank you. Let's wind up on it.
As long as it's sustainable.
In winding up, let me go to the mindset of our youth. Jubilee has now created a mindset, both at the universities and outside, that our youth no longer have to earn a living. All they have to do is to make money. To the extent, and I must thank Jakoyo Midiwo, to the extent that gambling has become part of life. Little children in Marinya are now refusing to go to school because they want to go and do betting at the shopping center. Mm-hmm. I am surprised that members of parliament are not supporting Jakoyo Midiwo on the law to control gambling in this country.
I am.
For your information, gambling, prostitution, money laundering, drugs is all pegged on one mindset, that people don't want to earn a living, they want to earn money. Finally, President Uhuru should stop his knee-jerk reaction. I think the president should know today that a small bird in the media has whispered to me that upon the clip of Kariuki springing on the screens, one of his PSS rang a media house and was asking, can somebody give me Kariuki? I want to give Kariuki a job. Shame on that PS. Because Kariuki is not the only one. He took that to a higher level. All of us who drive on Uhuru Highway, we now have young girls, young men holding placards that I'm looking for a job. So Kariuki just took it a notch higher by now doing it the way he did. The president must address the issue globally rather than asking his peers to come and sneak and say, can you give me a Kariuki, so that we do not have somebody from Kiambu being seen to be having a degree and this in Uhuru Park.
But at least we had a reaction, and he got a job as well. It's a salutary effort that is coming from the PS as well.
Which PS?
And you know,
can you tell us?
The PS you're mentioning that he called, and yeah.
Yes, the PS called. That's shameless. That's knee-jerk.
You know,
they should address all those children.
To begin with.
Am I? 1 minute. Am I sure that if that youth had been Khadiala, the same PS would have rang?
Actually,
maybe they rang because Khadiala from Pungoma would have rang.
Halole, it does not have to be a PS. I was actually myself going to do the same. But I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what, Halole.
Why did you do it?
The way to resolve the issues of this country in youth and unemployment is not to play the kind of politics that you've been playing. If you play that politics, that is in the first place what took us to where we are. And you know, I would just make a very simple, quick, short statement.
Yes.
Sober up about this thing. And then we can resolve the problem. We can talk about policy, talk about the way, the format to deal with this. And then when it comes to hunting for votes, and asking for people to follow us, then let's do that in another fashion.
Thank you.
But this can't be politics.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. Maybe we can get also reaction from Jakoyo Midiwo as we're winding up just briefly. On a cursory note, especially with the betting bill now that was shut down. I'm given to understand also that MPs, some of them have been, okay, this is unconfirmed reports, but they were actually grist 18 million shillings?
200,000 shillings per member doing rounds, and a list was made by a member of parliament. And fortunately, I was smarter than them. We didn't enter debate. So we are still going on. You know, like we did with the interest rates bill. Like we did with the interest rates bill. You know, Debarl, when you see today on Nation newspaper, page 3, say Midiwo attacked on Twitter over his gambling bill.
You were trending yesterday.
Yeah, I'm told. And you know, they have nothing to say about me, except you can see somebody saying gambling does not kill.
Oh.
Addiction kills.
Yes.
Any form of it. And it is not fair.
That's page 3.
Page 3 of the Nation.
Yes.
And I can tell you the amount of activity which was there on Thursday.
In the house.
You would be foolish. In fact, somebody said there were MPs who showed up in parliament who have not been there since October last year. They came in their numbers and sat until 6:31. You know, as in 1 minute longer. But you know, we don't have to win now. We are pointing out the ills of gambling.
Thank you.
And I wanted to say this about what Honorable Mithika said about the 30%. I am told I was told actually on Friday by a permanent secretary that in parastatals and government ministries, 30% is there. But there is a son of a leader in this country who is getting nearly all the 30%. A senior person, the son, the PSs are going crazy that one young man who is the son of a leader is doing havoc, wreaking havoc in all ministries. So he's doing all the 30% of government tenders. And his father makes the phone calls. You guess who?
All right, we'll leave it at that. And